So let's try to simulate a Brownian motion here. So let's do an example. For simulation, we need a random number. So in Excel, you can get a random number by using this command RAND and then parenthesis. So this will give you a random number. So if you click on it again and press, then you will get the number will change. So this number is from 0 to 1. So if you want to get a number between 0 and 2, then you can multiply this number by 2. So this will give you a number between 0 and 2. So like 1.53328, and if I click again and press, this is 0.1614. Now I can also say integer, so int, and then have everything else in the bracket. So what it will do is it will round off the number. So now I will get 1 or I will get 0. So you can press it again. Sometimes you will get 1, sometimes you will get a 0. So you can copy this number and you can see, so you have zeros and ones. So sometimes you have 0, sometimes you have 1. Now if I want a number from -1 to 1, what I can do is I can say 1 minus and multiply this uh, number by 2. So whenever I will get a 0, then it will say 1 minus 0 is 1, and whenever I get 1, then it will say 1 minus 2 is -1. So now if I copy this thing, it will give me a number from 1 or -1. So if I say again, so see, some of the numbers are 1 and some of them are -1. So I can copy them all the way as long as I want. So like suppose I copied around 220. So it's approximate. I don't know how many numbers they are, but so now I can click insert and say scatter plot. So you can see that all of my numbers are either -1 or +1, right? So I can press again and say, so the number changes, but all of them are either -1 or +1. So let's delete this. And now how will I generate a random walk? So let's say that the initial position is 0, and then initial position is 0, and then the next position will be this random step. So I'll say initial position plus the random step. So it will give me the first step, and then I can keep copying it. So if you click on any number again, you will see that what it does, it adds the previous number into the position of the particle or whatever object we are looking at. So you can see that, and when I change or when I press double click on it and press enter, it changes everything. So now I can go and all the way I can again copy it until 220. So now you can see that you press it again, sometimes the numbers are negative, sometimes they are positive. So if I take a graph of this walk, then you can see insert and I say scattered plot, and now you can see that around 200 steps are taken by this particle. So because there are 200, about 200 numbers, and it goes from 0 to 25 and then goes back and goes up. So it's moving randomly, but it can only move 25 steps in a forward direction. But if I click on this again, double click on it and then press enter, then you can see that although it went to 15 units away from 0, but it came back and then it went to the negative side and then came back to the positive. So it's a random walk. So you can keep doing it, and you can see that the distribution or the movement changes most of the time. So this is how you define a random walk. So this is a random walk only in one direction. If you want a two-dimension random walk, all we have to do is we have to generate a one more number like this. So we what we can do is I can copy this column and then move or copy this to the next side. So now I have two columns with the random steps, and then I can generate same way here and 0 and then say 1 plus or initial position plus the random step, and then I can copy it, double click on the side and it copies. So now I can plot a graph of these two numbers together, and this one will give me another graph which is a random movement in two dimensions. So let's keep this one here. And now if I click again and say enter, or this doesn't look very pretty, so let's do it again. So I think here the what happening is that the statistics is not good. So let's do 1000 points instead of 220 points. So I'll copy all these numbers and go until 1000. Yeah, around 1000 points, and then I'll delete this graph and then choose this and say insert, and then instead of the points I'll say format data series and say none and line color solid. Now you can see this is a random walk. I can delete these numbers so that looks well, and I can also delete these numbers. Let's make another so this is a random walk in two dimensions, so I can double click on it and press enter. You can see that the article movement changes from one to another. So here you can see that I have used the symmetrical step, so it's always 1 or -1. So what we can do is we can remove the int uh, from it, and then it will change the the movement. So now let's do remove the int, and from here also remove the int. So now to so now you can see I have removed the int, and I also removed the uh, 2 we had before. So now it's a random number between -1 and 1, and the steps are not symmetrical. So you can see the steps are all between -1 and 1 in column A and B, and then from that we describe the movement. So you can see that uh, the particle is moving in the random direction. So this is about simulation of one particle. So so particle can go in any direction. So if we want to simulate a real world problem or the diffusion of some particles in the real world, so instead of using one particle we have to do thousands and thousands of particle simulation, and then we can look at the macroscopic or the bigger picture of what is happening there. So as you can see that the steps are all between -1 and 1. So if we simulate thousands of points together and then take the mean position of that particles, it will be all 0. So the because some of the particle will go in the positive side and some of them will be negative side, but all of the mean should be 0. So And then if you simulate thousands of particles and plot their position from the center, it will be a Gaussian distribution. And as you increase the number of steps, the Gaussian distribution will get flatter and flatter, and ultimately it will become a uniform distribution. So we will talk about that in the second tutorial, and I will also show you how to add a drift into a random walk. So I hope this tutorial will help. I'll see you later then. Thank you.